All right. I am live here at Netroots Nation for the Matthew Filipowicz Show. I am talking to Michelle Schwartz. Michelle is the Director of Justice Programs for Alliance for Justice, which you can find at afj.org. Michelle, thanks for talking with me today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
All right. For starters, if people are not aware, tell them what exactly is Alliance for Justice.
The Alliance for Justice is just that. It's an alliance of more than 100 organizations. Our members are fighting for women's rights, civil rights, protecting the environment, workers, consumers, so really run the gamut of progressive organizations. And we work for a free and just society. We do that in two ways. One is we do a lot of work around our federal court system, where we work on making sure that we have judges on the bench who understand the lives of everyday Americans. We keep a close eye on the Supreme Court, and we make sure that our courts are open and accessible to all, regardless of their income, regardless of their power. And then we also have another initiative that works to help other nonprofits be effective advocates on their issues and learn the rules of what they can and can't do so that they can get out there and advocate for what they believe.
That's really interesting. Actually, I want to ask you, so how does that work about trying to figure out good judges? Because it actually is something that's really, really important. And actually, it seems that in some ways, the judges are probably the strongest and most important branch of government in a lot of ways. Because I mean, if you look at SCOTUS and how they've fundamentally changed America in just recently, it's pretty powerful stuff that I think people don't even grasp how important judges may be in certain instances.
I think that's right, and I think that to the extent that people realize that they probably are only thinking about the Supreme Court, but there are so many more judges who, the Supreme Court really only decides in less than 100, lately about 80 cases each year.
Right.
The vast majority of cases are decided by the federal courts of appeals and by the district courts, which are the federal trial courts, and so those judges matter sometimes just as much as the Supreme Court justices. And these judges, the cases that they're deciding, these cases impact every aspect of Americans' lives. So they are deciding cases about the environment. They are deciding cases, as we saw recently, about women's health and what they can do with their bodies.
Yeah.
They're deciding cases about what happens in the workplace, about consumer issues, about worker safety. So this is, any issue that you care about, you should be caring about the federal courts and caring about who sits on those courts.
So how actually do you determine the potential value of a judge? Like how do you actually, I'm kind of even interested in the process of that. Like how do you, I guess you can kind of look at it, because they come from different backgrounds and stuff, but how do you kind of determine whether or not you think, because you never know too. Someone may have a weird, but what are your kind of criteria and how do you kind of go about that actual process? Because I find that actually really interesting.
So what we are frequently looking for is we're looking for judges who represent kind of the full diversity of America. And that means two things. One is that demographic diversity, having judges who look like America is really important. That's been a really big priority of this president, who has put record numbers of women, African Americans, Latinos, Asian Americans, and especially openly LGBT Americans on the bench, which there had only been one openly LGBT judge confirmed to the federal bench ever before this presidency.
Right.
And now he's had 9 or 10 more. And then there's also another nominee who's openly gay. And so that has been really, really phenomenal. But also, we're really interested in professional diversity. What I mean by that is we want to see more judges who have been civil rights lawyers, who have been public interest lawyers, who have represented indigent criminal defendants. And so people who have represented everyday Americans and understand what it means when somebody who doesn't normally come into contact with the justice system has to face a federal court and sees a federal judge before them. And what is that, what are those feelings that they're going through? What do they want to see from that judge? And so we're really trying to make a push for people who have those backgrounds as well, so that they really understand the lives of everyday Americans.
I know one of the things you guys have been working on recently is forced arbitration, and it's a very interesting topic. Tell us what you guys have been doing.
So first, I should probably explain forced arbitration.
That's a good idea.
So, people every day, I'm sure that your listeners are going online and they're trying to use Instagram, or they're getting some product, from Microsoft, or they're signing up for a credit card or a cell phone, and they are clicking through. We all know these click-through contracts, so-called contracts, because I don't know that you can really say that people are entering into a real agreement here.
Yeah.
But you're just clicking through and clicking the box that says "I agree,"
right.
And you know that you can't get that service without that. Well, one of the things that's buried in the fine print of many of those click-through contracts today, and even in employment contracts, nursing home contracts, in the fine print, they've got something called a forced arbitration clause. And that means that you are signing away your rights. If something goes wrong, if you get injured, if you get, money stolen from you by fraud, you are signing away your right to go to court. This is a right that's guaranteed by the Sixth Amendment to the Constitution.
Yeah, exactly.
You're signing away that right and agreeing to go into a private system where the person who you're going before is chosen and paid for by the company that's harmed you.
Right.
And you are saying that you're going to go. There's not going to be a right to appeal.
Wow.
There's not going to be any openness, so these proceedings are done in secret.
Wow.
And so if you get harmed, you look at what happened in so many of these cases, like what just happened. So with American Apparel, and the abuses of that CEO that have now become kind of legion.
Yeah.
In their contracts with employees, in their contracts with the models, they had forced arbitration.
Wow.
So one of the reasons why they were able to keep this secret for so long was because when people were being harmed, this wasn't happening out in the open. You weren't having open court decisions where people were finding out about the wrongdoing.
Right.
Instead, each individual person was kind of in their own silo and nobody else knew what was going on.
Wow.